It's often a deep, dark secret in families that victims keep hidden due to their own shame. But tonight, a victim of incest is sharing her story and how coming face to face with her abuser, her father, still haunts her today. In tonight's Eye on Kelloland, Angela Kennecke shows you how there has been little justice for justice. We want to warn you, the details in this story of abuse are disturbing.
22-year-old Justice Hagen says she's lived with a horrible secret long enough.
This all kind of started happening when I was around 7. As I got older, it got worse and progressed.
Justice is a victim of sexual abuse by her own father, Justin Hagen. 41-year-old Hagen is a registered sex offender living in Sioux Falls. On the sex offender registry, his crime is described as convicted of aggravated incest involving a 12-year-old girl.
Which is interesting to me because it's like, well, are you focusing on 12? Because it was happening consistently from 10 to 15. A lot of the times it was him having me make the bed, but naked. And I don't know why that's something he focused on so much.
Justice says it got worse.
There were, fingers involved. There was, him having me perform on him orally and things like that. So no, it wasn't just making the bed naked.
As a child, Justice did not have a way out. She had been neglected by her biological mother and removed from the home by Child Protective Services and placed with her father.
You feel like you have to do everything you can to keep the family that you have. So I felt very like I can't be the one to do anything to ruin this family. I can't speak out or say anything.
In her early teen years, Justice was depressed and began to self-harm.
Did you think it was your fault?
I don't think I ever thought it was my fault. This man is extremely manipulative and narcissistic and a sociopath, and everybody saw him one way and I didn't see him like that at all. At the same time, this is my dad, and you don't want to lose him because, yeah, there were so many bad times, but he's the one that taught me how to play softball and was at all my games and all my practices and all my choir concerts. He was always there.
Justice says her breaking point was when she found her father's phone recording video in the bathroom.
I had gotten in the shower and I just was bawling. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And just an overflow of emotions, and just, I know if this is going to keep going, then I'm going to end up ending my life.
She confronted her father about his phone.
Justice, I'm so sorry. I pray to God every night that I'll stop doing this to you, and that's exactly what he said.
She ended up telling a school counselor, who was a mandatory reporter, what was happening, and police detectives were called to the school, where she had to repeat the whole story.
And it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And then they said when I was done to go clean up and go back to class. Looking back on it, that's awful.
Justin Hagen was initially charged with 6 felonies, including 2 counts of rape. But in a plea deal, he pled guilty to aggravated incest and child abuse and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, Hagen was released from prison within 2 years and is currently on active parole, according to the South Dakota Department of Corrections.
And this is the frustrating part, and something that I think really needs to change in South Dakota is he went in when I was a freshman and he was out before I graduated high school.
Justice feels as if her personal nightmare will never end. A couple of years later, she wasn't prepared for accidentally bumping into her abuser in public.
I was walking and I kind of looked up and I did one of those friendly smiles to a stranger, and I kept walking and my heart sank, realizing I had just did a friendly stranger smile to my dad. I ran into him.
She later married and moved across the country and had a baby girl. But wanting to be near her family, she returned to Sioux Falls and got a job at a daycare. Her father had remarried a woman with a child, a 4-year-old girl, who happened to attend that very same daycare.
I stayed because I wanted to stand my ground, and I wanted to say that this isn't happening anymore. You don't get to keep winning. You don't get to keep going about doing whatever you want to do, and then I have to change my life and jump over backwards for you at every turn.
She called her father's parole officer, and 2 days later, her father and his wife removed the child from daycare.
It felt like a victory to me. I wasn't moving, I wasn't wavering.
Justice says she still suffers from nightmares and has trouble trusting people, but felt the need to share her story publicly.
I feel like you go through this stuff and I don't know, I feel like it's my obligation to be the person that says something.
Justice says she stays strong now for her baby girl.
I have a beautiful baby, and I like to call her an angel baby. She's amazing. I was really young, and I made a promise to myself one night laying in bed that I wasn't going to be like my parents. And I've done everything I possibly can not to be like my parents, and I think I've done a pretty good job.
While incest is estimated to occur in more than 10% of families, only 20% of cases are reported because the perpetrator is someone the child loves and trusts. If you are a victim, we've put a link to the National Sexual Assault Hotline on this story on KELOLAND.com.